We're talking this week about minor league baseball with Coach Stuper. I personally, I love minor league baseball. I grew up in near Reading, Pennsylvania, and have great memories of going to the old Reading Municipal Stadium. In the 50s, Roger Maris played there. We didn't know he was going to be the Roger Maris then, but that to me, that's the great thing, or one of the great things about the minors. You never know when you're going to see a future legend. You've got several years minor league experience, John, at all levels, A, AA, AAA. Can you tell us a little bit about your own experience in the minors? What are some of the things you learned there?
Well, I'm glad you loved the minor leagues, Bill. I didn't really love the minor leagues. It's a tough grind.
It is.
But it teaches you basically how to become a big leaguer. You play 144 games in the minor leagues. I'm kind of glad that I didn't skip any levels and really kind of made my way up through. Had some tough times. And that's what it teaches you. It teaches you perseverance, for one thing, that you have to stay with it because it's not an easy road to hoe in any way, shape, or form. It also teaches you to kind of keep on an even keel. In college, most guys in the minor leagues were very successful in college, but you can't, and so you could celebrate a victory or whatever. But in the minor leagues, you have to stay, just like in the big leagues. If you have a good game, you have to just kind of go with it. If you have a bad game, you have to do what we call turn the page on that and go get them the next time. So it taught me that. It taught me that there's no substitute for hard work. If you want to realize your dream, you have to work hard, and hopefully you can make it to the big leagues. I mean, I had some times in the minor leagues, people see in the big leagues, and and I remember when I pitched in the World Series and I was getting questions and people were acting like, it was all rosy on the way up. Well, I was 5-9 my first year in the minor leagues. The year before I pitched in the World Series, I was 6-14 in AAA. So I had my struggles. I remember in AA once, we were in Amarillo, Texas. The lights it was in the Texas League, obviously, and the lights in Amarillo were awful, except when I pitched. They seemed to see the ball really well, and were knocking me all over the place. I mean, my manager even said, "Stu, they can't even see here, and they're hitting you." So there have been some tough times coming up through the minor leagues, but you learn that. And a couple lessons that I learned. One was one of our head guys with the Cardinals said to me, "Here's how you move. If you're in the minor leagues and you want to move up, here's how you move. You go out there as a pitcher 5 times. If you're good once out of those 5, you're going to stay there. If you're twice out of those 5, you're going to stay there. 3 times, they start thinking about it. 4 times out of 5, then you start moving. And that's, as a pitcher, that's what you try and accomplish. So that's what I try and accomplish. I remember getting called to the big leagues from AAA, and Donnie Moore took me aside. I had really been good in AAA. I was 7-1, I think, with a 1.46 ERA, 5 straight complete games. So I earned my trip to the big leagues, and Donnie Moore took me aside, and he had been a guy who had pitched a lot in the big leagues already, and he was down in AAA for a little while. And he said to me, he took me aside, he said, "Your stuff is good enough to get big league guys out. Don't change anything." And that really resonated with me because, you go up there and you're pitching against Steve Garvey and Ron Say and guys like that I had watched on TV, and now I have to get them out. So I couldn't be starstruck or in awe of those guys. I had to think I belonged. And so Donnie Moore's little talk with me really helped.
So Donnie, that's the Donnie Moore, isn't it? Who wound up killing himself subsequently? That's a terribly sad story.
He gave up a big home run.
Exactly.
And cost the playoffs for the Angels, and just a terrific guy. He was a great teammate. I loved the guy, and he really was good to me when I was in AAA. Really helped me a lot. So that was so sad when that happened. Yeah.
Can you, the book we're reading this week in class is a Tale of Hard Luck in the Minors. Can you share with us, you don't have to name names, some stories that you came across, some people you came across in the minors who just, for one reason or another, couldn't make it to the next level?
It's not easy to make it to the big leagues. I don't know what the ratio is of guys that are drafted. I think it's like 1 in 2,000 or something like that. But there was a pitcher that I played with in AAA, and he won like 12 or 15 games for 4 straight years in AAA. But the big league club just didn't think his stuff would translate to the big leagues, and he never got a call up. So I felt really, really bad about that because I thought he had earned at least a September call up. Nowadays teams are really careful about September call-ups because it starts a guy's arbitration clock going, and which can cost them money in the future. But that was the one guy I thought that probably deserved at least a call-up and didn't get it. It's a tough life. It's a tough life. The rewards are great, but the minor leagues, bad hotels, bad food, you carry your own luggage everywhere. You get to and you have to pay for everything.
Right.
Then you get to the big leagues. They carry your luggage. You stay in great hotels, and now you can afford it, but you don't have to buy anything. So it's kind of should be reversed, I think, but it's just the way it is.
We'll talk about pay in another week, in another session, but since we're on the subject of minor leagues and the pay differentials you mentioned and the differences in benefits between the two levels, what are your thoughts on minor league pay and its relation especially to major league pay?
Well, minor league play has gotten a lot better since I remember signing in 1978. I made $500 a month.
Wow.
Okay, and then I was thrilled when I got a raise the next year to $600 a month. So, you're chasing a dream, and so the money at that point isn't really an issue. And it's not like you're the only guy in that boat. There's all your teammates are in the same boat. So you're just working hard to get to where you want to get, and that's the major leagues, because there's nothing like it. The greatest job in the world is a starting pitcher in the major leagues, because you work 1 day in 5, and the other 4 days you get to sit around and watch Major League Baseball. It's the most awesome job in the world. My wife says that I still go by that schedule, that I do work around the house once every 5 days. I take the other 4 days off. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that was my dream since I was 3 years old, to be in the big leagues, and I was blessed enough and fortunate enough to make it.
No, it's good to hear you say something like that. I feel pretty much the same way about my own job. People ask me what I do. I say, I think. I get paid to think and tell people what I think. How can you beat it?
Can't beat it.
Last question. Did you play ever against, in the minors, play ever against any future superstars? What was that like?
I picked the one that comes to mind is Ryne Sandberg. He was with the Phillies then, and then he ended up getting traded to the Cubs. And when he hit, he was so quiet at the plate. When I say quiet, there weren't a whole lot of moving parts with him. That's the way he was in the minor leagues. He was quiet in the field. Never said a word, never went through any histrionics or anything like that. Just a classy, quiet guy. His bat had a big mouth. He could really hit. So I played against him. I actually coached for 2 years in the minor leagues and coached against Chipper Jones and Carlos Delgado. Chipper Jones was a shortstop. When he first got signed, he was a 19-year-old switch hitter. He made like 50 errors at short. I think that's one of the reasons they moved him to third. But he just destroyed my pitch. I was a pitching coach for the Cardinals in the minor leagues. He destroyed my pitching staff. He and Carlos Delgado, they were both 19 years old, and they were men amongst boys at the age of 19. It came so easy to them, at least it seemed it did. And they just wore my pitchers out.
So even then, at age 19, you could tell these guys are going all the way.
No question. When guys are first-round picks, especially if they're like in the top 5 or 6 picks of the entire draft, scouts don't miss too often with those kind of picks. And those guys were you could tell they were destined to great careers.
Which they had, great.
Which they have had, yes.
Thanks, John.
You bet.